Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 15 articles in this political edition for you this morning. All the URLs are in the description of this video for your convenience if you want to do some research on them. The first one we have here is off of Milo Yiannopoulos, and it says Charles Schumer under fire for helping man now accused of child abuse into the U.S. We can get the hamster to cooperate here. I may have to reload this page because he appears to be having some problems, but we'll see what we can do. It says snowshoe racer and child sex abuse suspect Tranvir Hussein's entry into the United States was made possible by Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, reports Fox News. The outlet states that the American Embassy in New Delhi, India, rejected Tranvir Hussein's visa application a month ago as he tried to enter the country to compete in the World Snowshoe Competition. Local officials stepped in for the help of Chuck Schumer, as well as Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, a Democrat. Both officials reportedly stepped in and helped Hussein secure entry into the United States. Subsequently, Hussein has been arrested on a felony child sex abuse charge and is also accused of endangering the welfare of a child. According to Fox News, Hussein is reported to have engaged in a passionate kiss with a 12-year-old girl while touching her in intimate areas. Lawyer Brian Barrett has entered a not guilty plea for the accused, but said the 12-year-old had been following him around all week. But that's really all I can say on that. Saranac Lake Village police say the incident is reported to have taken place on Monday. Authorities can also confirm that Hussein was in contact with the girl through text messaging. News of the fact that Charles Schumer, who just earlier this week came out swinging against Attorney General Jeff Sessions, was instrumental in granting Hussein entry into the U.S., has garnered quite a bit of reaction online. And there's a bunch of tweets from people here. I'll pick out maybe a couple of them. Here's one that says, Fox News and broke Fox News. Chuck Schumer needs to recuse himself from anything that has to do with immigration, calling for his resignation. Another one says Fox News and broke, or said broke? No, it's Brook, B-R-O-O-K-E, Fox News. I think well, I don't know. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. Says, so sad. Schumer, who accuses everyone else, is not perfect. Another one down here says, you the man, Schumer. They will be digging in your closet now. There you have that article. The next one is off of BizPac Review. And as soon as the hamster spins the little wheel around here, hamster some vitamins today. He ought to be doing better than this. Maybe it was the wrong vitamins. I don't know. It says Pakistani suspect in House IT probe were paid $4 million from Dem reps. Pakistani family under criminal investigation for allegedly misusing their positions as computer administrators for dozens of Democrats in the House of Representatives were paid at least $4 million from July of 2009 to the present. Foundation's investigative group has learned. Evidence suggests some of the dozens of House Democrats, many of whom serve on the Intelligence, Homeland Security, and Foreign Affairs committees, who employed the suspects were inexplicably paying people they rarely or never saw. See the interactive graphic at the end of this story for the names of the employing representatives. Had full access to the emails and office computer files of members for whom a focus of the investigation by the U.S. Capitol Police is an off-site server on which congressional data was allegedly loaded without the knowledge of authorities. Even before Capitol Police told chiefs of staff for the employing Democrats February the 2nd that including brothers Aram, Abid, and Jamal, and two of their wives, Natalia Sova, were suspects in theft and cybersecurity probe. There were multiple signs that something was amiss. For example, 4 of the 500 highest paid House staffers are suspects, according to analysis of payroll records. There are more than 15,000 congressional staff employees with an average, according to Legistorm. Top slots on Capitol Hill are subject to fierce competition. Most employees, the hours are long and job security is non-existent. The median salary for legislative assistants is $43,000 a year annually, according to InsideGov.com. Vaughn has collected $1.2 million in salaries since 2010, and his brother Abid and his wife were each paid more than $1 million. Imran first came to Capitol Hill in the early 2000s, and Abid joined him in. Imran's wife, Hina Alvi, was added to the payroll in 2007, while Abid's wife, Natalia Sova, appeared in 2011. Finally, in 2014, the youngest sibling, Jamal, joined the payroll in 2014 at the age of 20 with a salary of $160,000. In offices, she didn't show up or rarely showed up, and Imran would handle it. A former House staffer with direct knowledge of the brothers told DCNF. Once in a while, he would take her around the offices, but after a while, he stopped even putting up with the illusion and did all that stuff himself. Jamal was always there, but Imran would only work odd hours. Since 2003, the family has collected $5 million overall, with Imran making $2 million, $1.5 million, according to Legistorm.com, which tracks congressional staff data. Some of the 25,000 people who have worked since 2010, only 100 have taken home more than Imran. As shared employees, their salaries were cobbled together with part-time payments from multiple members. The Awans appeared at one time or another on an estimated 80 House Democrats' payrolls. Yet the brothers spent significant time in Pakistan, the DCNF was told. They even had time beginning in 2009 to operate a Northern Virginia car dealership with Abid as its day-to-day manager. The dealership received a $100,000 loan that was never repaid from Dr. Ali al-Attar, an Iraqi politician who fled the U.S. on tax charges. He has links to the terrorist group Hezbollah. Among the House Democrats employing the Awans was Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former Democratic National Committee chairman, whose tenure there was marked by a disastrous email hack that she blamed on the Russians. Democrats terminated the suspects on their payrolls following the meeting with investigators, but it's uncertain how many have done so. That Imran was flush with enough cash to loan $30,000 to a friend, yet Abid declared bankruptcy in 2012 to others while keeping remaining ownership of 2 houses. The interactive graphic below shows the sources of Awan's congressional income. And you can pull this up and take a look at it, but I'll throw the names out there. Democrat of Ohio, Tim Ryan, Democrat of Ohio, the Democrat of California, M. Levin, Democrat of Michigan, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Democrat of Florida, Yvette D. Clark, Democrat, New York, W. Meeks, Democrat of New York, John Baines, Democrat of Maryland. Jackie Spear, Democrat of California. Diana, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but she's a Democrat in Colorado. Frederica S. Wilson, Democrat of Florida. Richmond, Democrat of Louisiana. Caucus. David, Democrat of Iowa. Karen Bass, Democrat of California. Joyce Beatty, Democrat of Ohio. Emmanuel Cleaver, Democrat of Missouri. Louis Frankel, Democrat of Florida. Kildee, Democrat of Michigan. Tony Cardenas, Democrat of California. Michelle Lujan Grisham, Democrat of New Mexico. Robin Kelly, Democrat of Illinois. Catherine M. Clark, Democrat of Massachusetts. Mark Takano, Democrat of California. Brownlee, Democrat of California. Pete Aguilar, Democrat of California. Andre Carson, Democrat of Indiana. Joaquin Castro, Democrat of Texas. Douche of Florida. Ted Lieu, Democrat of California. Hakeem S. Jeffries, Democrat of New York. Kirsten Simna, Democrat of Arizona. My goodness gracious. The money for folks to be earning, isn't it? Who knows, about the data that they had access to, where it's ended up. The next one off of Conservative Tribune. There is a running as fast as 3 little legs will go. Makes bombshell announcement won't fill some unfilled government positions. President Donald Trump has been taking heat for not filling hundreds of appointed federal government jobs, but he recently revealed the true reason why he hasn't done so, a reason conservatives will love. In an interview with Fox News, Fox and Friends that aired this week, Trump explained that his administration seemingly political appointees has been an effort to shrink the size of the federal government. When I see us fill hundreds and hundreds of jobs, in many cases we don't want to fill those jobs, he said. When that he has 600 empty positions, Trump doubled down on his reasoning behind the situation. A lot of those jobs I don't want to appoint because they're unnecessary to have, the president explained. We have so many people in government. Even me, I look at some of those jobs and it's people over people over people. All these people do. You don't need all these jobs. He's right. In fact, there are more than 4,000 roles for political appointees throughout the government, according to the Center for Presidential Transition. I don't want to fill, Trump said. I say, isn't that a good thing? It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. A very good, efficient government. And if you want to see what he has to say about it, there's some video in this that you can pull up and take a look at. It says some positions in the federal government have been needed to ensure that things run smoothly. But the problem is that even with thousands of people, things haven't been running smoothly. The Department of Veterans Affairs and the State Department, just to name a few. Democrats might not be able to grasp the concept of leaving a government job unfilled, even if it's not necessary, but a businessman has no problem with the idea at all. The next article I have is off of BizPac Review. Hamster is a running. Come on, buddy. You can do it. I know you can. I'm rooting for you. It says, here's why Trump's merit-based plan has so many immigration experts cheering. The fact that the United States has been enthusiastically welcoming low-skilled immigrants from uncivilized Western incompatible cultures and parts of the world is one of the greatest national tragedies in the last 50 years. Are we importing people to compete with our low-skilled workers? The ill-thought-out policy has consistently held down their wages as well. Trump gets his way. All that's about to change. In his address to Congress on Tuesday night, Trump spoke of ending the current policy of extended family chain migration, it with a merit-based legal immigration system. Nations around the world, like Canada, Australia, and many others, have merit-based immigration system. Principle that those seeking to enter a country ought to be able to support themselves financially, Trump said. Yet, in America, we do not enforce this rule. Public resources that our poor citizens rely on. According to the National Academy of Sciences, our current immigration system costs American taxpayers many billions of dollars a year. I believe positive immigration reform is possible, Trump continued, as long as we focus on the following goals to improve for Americans, to strengthen our nation's security, and to restore respect for our laws. Of switching away from this current system of lower skilled immigration and instead adopting a merit-based system would include billions of dollars in cost savings, safer communities, wages for American workers, especially those at the bottom of the wage scale. Renowned immigration experts are thrilled at the possibility of a sea change in policy. Numbers USA president and maker of the viral video Immigration, World Poverty, and Gumballs, Roy Beck, wrote in a statement, "I'm not sure that the sentiment has been expressed by a president in the Capitol at any last 90 years, if ever. Oh, some presidents have given a little bit lip service at times to the fact that illegal immigration can be unfair to American workers, but that was the groundbreaking. Immigration is a threat to workers." Dan Stein, president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform, called FAIR, wrote, "President Trump demonstrated a studied understanding of the market forces at work displacing American workers and depressing working class. He also once again showed that he oh, good golly, emphasizes with the thousands of American families who have needlessly lost loved ones to illegal immigrants who should not have been in the country in the first place. Acting on behalf of the American people, he has a vision for key policy changes that will address all of these problems. The Immigration Studies executive director wrote, "It was important, both for policy and politics, that he include to improve jobs and wages for Americans in the goals of immigration reform, along with to strengthen our nation's security and to restore respect for our laws. Aliens, let alone legal immigrants, aren't bad hombres, but the mass admission hombres is bad for American workers. To flesh out that policy, it would help to see some emphasis on enforcement and e-verify to go along with arresting and deporting criminals. Additionally, all these experts are firmly behind Senator Tom Cotton's RAISE Act, legislation intended to significantly cut immigration. The RAISE Act, merit-based immigration policy, may not be cure-alls, but steps in the right direction if we expect to save our country. The next article I have is also off of BizPac Review. Running. Come on. Trump, San Francisco pulls out of FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Lambasting the city of San Francisco's decision to back out of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. The city, which is a sanctuary for illegal aliens, might be endangering its citizens further by pulling out of the task force, critics warned, according to Fox News. The task force has been credited with preventing 93 terrorist attacks since 2001, with another ongoing 1,000 investigations, according to the Heritage Foundation. In my opinion, the decision by the mayor and the police chief to withdraw the San Francisco Police Department from JTTF is really narrow-minded, retired FBI Special Agent Mark Rossini, a founding executive of the National Counterterrorism Center, said. Aside, and the mayor and leaders of San Francisco have their right to their opinion, political opinion and beliefs, but when you're working in law enforcement should know no politics. Former U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Special Agent in charge of Homeland Security investigations, Claude Arnold, said the majority obtained by the task force comes from local sources. Best chance of uncovering networks, plots, missing pieces of a puzzle without cities participating in the JTTF, Arnold told the news. Information must flow both ways in these cases, Rossini added. By San Francisco pulling out, you're losing that vital link of data that FBI and other federal agencies and the Department of Justice will need in order to complete its cases and investigate them thoroughly. Former FBI agent Lauren Anderson can impact Americans nationwide. In virtually every terrorist prevention or incident, was the first point of interaction, she said. 2010 wannabe Times Square bomber, Faisal Shahzad, as an example. Two street vendors noticed a vehicle with smoke. Told New York Police Department officers, because NYPD was physically present on the JTTF, the information was shared immediately, and members of the JTTF in minutes, she said. But San Francisco contends that a task force discriminates against Muslims. The decision was applauded by local activists. Really about the need for local police officers to comply with state and local laws and policies, even working with the FBI, JTTF. Retired attorney John Crew, who works with the American Civil Liberties Union and the Council on American Islamic Relations, told Fox News. In the least bit concerned about the dangers Americans by the decision, Crew said. The article is off of BizPac Review. Makes me want to be an American. Logan co-star Patrick Stewart drops this bomb on The View. Another one bites the dust. British actor Patrick Stewart, chorus of brainwashed Hollywood buffoons jumping on the anti-Trump bandwagon for publicity. While pimping his new film, Logan, Stewart wants to become a U.S. citizen so he can fight and oppose President Trump. I am now applying for citizenship because I want to be an American too, Stewart said on The View. My friends in Washington said there is one thing you can do. Fight, oppose, but I can't do it yet because Stewart, who previously predicted that President Trump in the White House, also claimed poorly the last time he visited Washington. Naturally, he blamed Trump for his insomnia. His next excuse was the Russians. The first night we were in Washington, I had the worst night's sleep for years and years, Stewart said. It was only in the morning when I got up and drew the curtains that I realized what the 76-year-old Star Trek alum his insomnia back in February. Had the worst sleep of my life last night, less than 300 yards from where Donald Trump sleeps. Connection. Patrick Stewart has been a resident alien for 28 years and is married to American musician Sonny Oswald. If he's serious about pursuing U.S. citizenship or if it's merely a PR stunt to shill his new movie. Even C-list celebs have noticed that speaking out against Trump gets their names in the headlines. To Stewart with its usual snark and sarcasm. And there's a whole slew of tweets. One of them, for instance, says, Stewart should be barred from the USA. We don't need more unhinged Dems. Extremely necessary. And then the article says one Trump supporter said it may be time to boycott. It says Patrick Stewart said on the Libtard View he wants to become a U.S. citizen. I smell another boycott. Says one tweet said if Stewart fights Trump the same lame way he fought Brexit, protest. Oh, a tweet says, poor guy, he must like losing. Did he fight Brexit too? There you have that. The next one I have here is off of Liberty Writers. Oh my God, look who the FBI was just caught paying to sabotage President Trump. A new report released by the Washington Post, the FBI had reached a secret deal the election with the ex-British spy who made the fake dossier about Donald Trump to pay him for more dirty info on the president. Fell apart as ex-spy Chris Steele's story became obviously a big load of lies, was to continue payments to him and his British firm to do covert work Trump for the FBI. However, it could also mean that the FBI was planning on tracking Steele to see who his sources were to check their legitimacy for themselves. This would be a sting operation. Now, this is the Washington Post we're talking about, so they could be making all this up just to try and mess with Trump. After all, name their sources. Enforcement official, however, the FBI did have a relationship with Steele on some level. Steele had worked with the FBI before on the FIFA soccer corruption scandal. It's not impossible to believe that the FBI would have investigated claims with Russia blackmailing a presidential candidate despite being untrue. Those are very serious claims. Still, it is good to know that Trump is 100% for the United States and has proven it by working hard every day to improve our country best ways possible. Next article is off BizPac Review, and it says DCNF exclusive, deployed U.S. Navy has a pregnancy problem, and it's getting worse. A record 16 out of 100 Navy women are reassigning from ship to shore duty due to pregnancy, according to data obtained under the Freedom of Information Act by the Daily Caller News Foundation Investigative Group. Number is up 2% from 2015, representing hundreds more who have to cut their deployment short, taxing both their units' manpower, military budgets, and combat readiness. Further, such increases cast a shadow over the lofty intergenerational goals set by former President Barack Obama. Overall, women unexpectedly leave their stations on Navy ships as much as 50% more frequently to return to land duty, according to documents obtained from the Navy. Compiled by Navy Personnel Command at the request of the DCNF, covering the period from January 2015 to September of 2016. The evacuation of pregnant women is costly for the Navy. Jude Eden, a nationally known author about women in the military who served from 2004 as a Marine deployed to Iraq, said a single transfer can cost the Navy up to $30,000 for each woman trained for a specific task, then evacuated from an active duty ship and sent to land. That figure translates into $115 million in expenses for 2016 alone. This is an avoidable cost and expense, leaving a gap for other people to pick up the work slack, Eden said. A pregnancy takes you out of action for about 2 years, and there's no replacement, said Elaine Donnelly, president of the Center for Military Readiness, a nonpartisan public policy organization. So everybody else has to work all that harder. Adding that on small ships, you really have a potential crude disaster. Navy Lieutenant Commander Nathan Christensen told DCNF the Navy tries to plan for the unplanned. Just as we deal with other unplanned manning losses due to injury or other hardships, we work to ensure that pregnant service members are taken care of and that commands are equipped to fulfill their missions when an unexpected loss occurs, he said. In January 2015, 3,335 women were pregnant aboard military vessels, representing about 14% of the 23,735 women then serving such duty, according to the data. But by August 2016, that number reached nearly 16%, an all-time high. The Navy reported 3,840 of the 24,259 women sailors who were aboard Navy ships were pregnant. The Obama administration understands the pregnancy problem throughout its 8 years, even suppressed some data about the impact of its gender-neutral policies on the Navy. For decades, for instance, the Navy published results from exhaustive surveys of 25,000 men and women in a document called Navy Pregnancy and Parenthood Survey. Were 75 to 100 pages long and disclosed attitudes among men and women and their behavior. However, the Obama administration published only brief 2 to 3 page summaries from the 2012 onward. A civilian attached to the Navy Personnel Research Studies and Technology Group, which researched and published the surveys, told DCNF full reports were completed regularly, even though its detailed findings were not released to the public. The individual requested anonymity. They had been tight-lipped over the years about these numbers. They don't like to publicize them, Eden told DCNF. Been dogged for years by lingering claims that some women get pregnant simply to avoid deployment. We all know that happens. To avoid deployment, Eden told DCNF. There do seem to be coincidences, said Donnelly. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence. This information is considered so sensitive, and you don't ask. It's just something that everybody knows occurs, Donnelly said. She served on the Defense Advisory Committee on Women in the Services and on Presidential Commission on the Assignment of Women in the Armed Services. The sudden departure of pregnant women aboard military vessels severely hurts military readiness and morale for those left behind and who must pick up the slack. The expecting sailors must be transferred from the ship after the 20th week of pregnancy. The Navy official considered pregnancy incompatible with military service, and women who become pregnant are discharged, according to the Alliance for National Defense. However, with the introduction of the all-volunteer military, the Navy provided many lucrative incentives for men and women, including free housing, medical care, recreation, and educational opportunities. But women got additional benefits, including free prenatal care, daycare, counseling, and special education for toddlers and children with disabilities or for other special needs. Since benefits offered to the recruits who are women are so very generous, it almost becomes an incentive, said Donnelly. One feminist advocate many years ago referred to the military as a mecca for single moms. There are so many carrots, the military has become a modern day jobs program, Eden said. His 8 years in office sought to increase dramatically the number of women on ships. Admiral Michelle Howard announced a quota of 25% women on all ships. We're going back and looking at the ships, all of them, and what percentage of women are on the ships. Over time, we'll modernize them to make sure we get about 25% on each ship, she said. Secretary Ray Mabus in September 2015 pushed the new policy stating that the Navy SEALs combat jobs in the Navy should be open to women with no exemptions as part of the Pentagon's new gender-neutral policy. Eden believes that the policy of increasing women on ships in failure, it's bad policy when you think of ships battle ready and then have to transfer women off for pregnancy. something that has to do with controlled behavior or voluntary behavior, she said. It's unclear how President Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, will handle women in the military, but also said during his confirmation hearing he would support a combat role for women. Off of Liberty Writers, and it says leaked of top Democrat plans to take down Trump. And this says, I'm going to need your help getting this information out. We have to get this out there. This leaked audio from anti-Trump protests shows a group of activists conspiring to manufacture hostile environments as Republican town halls. The Democrats are conspiring to hurt the images of our Republican senators. I'm talking about disrupting an event for Senator Bill Cassidy in Brex Bridge, Louisiana. The audio was obtained by a local radio station, KPEL. You can hear them conspiring to create a fake narrative that Cassidy's support for Trump is unpopular with constituents. And they have this audio here if you want to pull it up and listen to it. It says you can hear them splitting up into an inside team to occupy as many seats as we can and an outside team to give media the coverage they want. They say to dress like conservatives and leave home any significant any signifier that you're a liberal in order to blend in. When you start to lose the meeting, that's when you boo and hiss, one unidentified activist can be heard saying. I'm going to say that, another activist said back. There's a picture of a girl that looks totally unhinged, and it says boo and hiss. Yep, that sounds like a liberal. When you hit them with facts for themselves and make faces like the girl below. This means that Trump was 100% right. Check this out when he says in a tweet, the so-called angry crowds in home districts of some Republicans are actually in numerous cases planned out by liberal activists. Sad. Trump is right every single time. These liberal loons are actually disrupting rallies. The next article is off of BizPac Review. It says, Pence under fire for personal email use. Libs foolishly try to pounce. Pence has come under fire for reportedly using a private email account for government business during his tenure as Indiana governor in June. A number of emails exchanged from his personal AOL account contain sensitive information relating to Homeland Security, according to the Indy Star. Private email account to conduct public business as governor of Indiana, his office acknowledged in a statement on Thursday. Previous governors, during his time as governor of Indiana, Mike Pence maintained a state email account and a personal email account. Pence fully complied with the Indiana law regarding email and use, Pence's office said in a statement. Involving his state and personal accounts are being archived by the state consistent with Indiana law and are being managed according to Indiana's Access to Public Records Act. Under Indiana state law, public officials are not prohibited from using personal email accounts, but are encouraged to preserve the exchange for transparency reasons. Criticized former Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton for using a private email server while handling classified information. Comparisons of Clinton and Pence are not valid. Pence Press Secretary Mark Lauder told Politico, since the vice president did not hold a security clearance during his time as governor. The article we have is off of BizPac Review. Chicago Journal visits Rinkeby, Sweden to see if Trump was right, says he needed a police escort to get out. Tim Pool, a Chicago-based American journalist, posted a YouTube video of what he said was Swedish police escorting him out of that European liberals say don't exist. In response to President Donald Trump's recent comments about Sweden, Pool and a colleague headed to the Muslim-dominated Rinkeby suburb of Stockholm, where the riots occurred last week. Pool posted a YouTube video below where he said he and his colleagues had not planned to visit in the no-go zone, but since they were close to Rinkeby, decided to see it for themselves. He posted on Twitter Wednesday that they were warned by police to leave or things are going to get bad. And his tweet says, we weren't filming anyone. We were just talking to police. They started getting nervous as men started masking up around us. Police can be seen on a video seemingly following Poole, but they dispute the claim that they escorted them out, the local and English language news network in Sweden. But then liberal Swedish government is not eager to own up to the problem the country is facing as a result of allowing in so many immigrants from the Middle East. And he shoots a little video here, and it shows the police car behind him. And he says, in Rinkeby, 2:30 p.m., several men started masking up and following us. Police told us to leave, and they had to escort us to our car. Swedish police did not say the incident didn't happen. They just said that they were unable to find any specific reports it in their system. I started talking to the police. They told me some interesting things about the good they think they can do there. And then one of the other cops basically said, I have a tip for you. Look at what the men around you are doing, Poole told the news network. We had noticed a bunch of people putting up their hoods, so the cops was like, maybe it would be smart if you were to leave now. That's my tip for you. They got in their car to escort us out, and we just had to walk alongside their vehicle, and they followed us to our car. As we were walking, us yelling things, he added. After the men started to surround them, Poole said he asked if the police followed them out. Poole said that an officer agreed that it would be a good idea. Told a Stockholm newspaper, however, that Poole was filming a group of young people attending a poetry event who pulled their hoods up and covered their faces and yelled at him to stop filming, not to stay there and keep filming. The police was going to Rinkeby, or I'm sorry, the patrol was going to Rinkeby Academy, and that's where Poole's team had parked their car, so it was more out of coincidence that they followed each other there, the officer said. Poole's YouTube video tells an entirely different story, and it can be seen here in this article if you want to pull it up and take a look at it. Poole said the incident threw him for a loop. We genuinely thought that nothing would happen, he said. Poole and his colleague were escorted by someone who appeared to be local and pointed out how places had been looted along with the absence of women from cafes. At another point in the video, Poole went on to talk about his previous experience and appeared to be shaken and surprised by what had occurred. He recalled seeing a group of men pulling up masks before the police advised that one of the police officers allegedly told Poole that if they were to arrest a potential attacker or migrant, there could be 50 more with stones. By the end of the video, it's safe to say that Poole seemed conflicted, perhaps by what he wanted to believe and what his gut was telling him. At this point, it is Poole's word against Swede police, but it's an interesting inside look at a place that has garnered so much attention. Is off of Western Journalism, and it says Obama's $1 million deal for books on their White House years. Former President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle have agreed to a $60 million deal for a 2-book package about their time in the White House. And there's a tweet here that says Barack and Michelle Obama signed book deal with Penguin Random House publisher announces. The books will be first ever authored by former and the fourth from the former president. Penguin Random House will publish the books. No date has been set. The former president had listed about the White House years as one of his top priorities after leaving office last month. We are absolutely thrilled to continue our publishing partnership with President and Mrs. Obama, said Marcus Dole, CEO of Penguin Random House. And their leadership, they changed the world. And every day with the books we publish at Penguin Random House, we strive to do the same, he said. Are very, very much looking forward to working together with President and Mrs. Obama to make each of their books global publishing events of unprecedented scope and significance, he added. Has agreed to donate more than 1 million books as part of the deal. If the reported figure of 60 for the 2 books is accurate, will have eclipsed another political or other political authors. There we go. Former President Bill Clinton was given $15 million for his memoirs of the White House days, while Hillary Clinton received a $14 million advance on her State Department experiences. Former President George W. Bush was given $10 million advance for his 2010 memoir. Former President Obama has written 3 books, The Audacity of Hope, which was published in 2006, and his campaign for the White House was a children's book, Of Thee I Sing, and a 2004 memoir, Dreams from My Father. Earned Obama about $15 million to date. The next article is off the Conservative Tribune. It says senior federal judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg needs to shut up about politics. I think she just needs to shut up, period. But hey, one probable reason for President Donald Trump's 2016 election victory was the issue of the Supreme Court and the vacant seats to be filled by whoever won. The Supreme Court has become increasingly politicized recently, thanks to some of its members speaking publicly about political issues when they really shouldn't. Judge Lawrence Silberman of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit wrote an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, pointing out that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in particular, had become far too political. It revolved around comments Ginsburg made during the 2016 election cycle when she openly attacked Trump by calling him a faker and then apologized for her comments, as well as publicly endorsing then President Barack Obama's preference of Judge Merrick Garland for the vacant Supreme Court seat. Now, I will admit that Merrick Garland is a dear friend, and I thought him the best Democrat nominee, Silberman explained, but judges are ethically bound not to state a public position for or against a pending nominee to a federal court. At that point, it's a political question. Justices are not supposed to occupy themselves with political matters. They are supposed to be impartial judges who rely on the Constitution in determining whether something is legal or not. Today, some Supreme Court justices prefer to issue rulings based on what they think the law should say, rather than on what the law actually says. I knew Justice Ginsburg once as a disciplined, relatively restrained colleague on the District of Columbia Circuit, and therefore I regret very much her evolution. Ginsburg seems to have lost some impartiality in her old age. She is playing politics far too much and doesn't seem to care how badly it damages the Supreme Court's reputation. Thankfully, Trump was elected, and he has nominated Neil Gorsuch for the vacancy on the court. Trump has vowed to nominate people to the court for future vacancies who will issue rulings based on the Constitution, not on their personal beliefs. The court has become far too politicized in recent years. Hopefully, Trump will be able to reverse some of that damage and restore confidence in our nation's highest court. The article is off of Conservative Tribune. As soon as it rolls up here. GOP lobbyist has evidence that could reveal why DNC Rich died. Could Russia be behind the murder of 27-year-old Democrat National Committee staffer? Some Republicans are asking for an investigation after new clues emerged that the Kremlin could have had a hand in DNC data analyst Seth Rich's death. According to the UK Daily Mail, GOP lobbyist Jack Berkman cited new evidence that suggested Rich's murder. While Washington police simply wrote off Rich's death as a robbery gone wrong, Berkman has said for some time that he's not convinced, according to the Daily Caller. Now I think we have our first big news in the case. We have leads and evidence of Russian involvement, he said. In particular, Berkman said he had been contacted by a man who claimed to be a former U.S. intelligence officer with information about the killing. The source has claimed that the murder, was arranged by the Russian government at a very high level, Berkman said. He didn't specify who or how. He just said that he had knowledge it was arranged by the Russian government and stressed level. Berkman declined to provide more specific information about the source. Berkman wasn't the only one with questions. Rich's father, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, and others have also weighed in on the case, though Berkman was pressing the Russian angle in particular. But why would Russia want Rich gone? Berkman believed that Rich was killed after discovering Russian operatives had hacked the DNC through his work on what Berkman described as a highly important voter registration program. The allegation is that Seth had discovered what the Russians were doing, retaliated because of the discovery, Berkman noted. Perhaps even more chilling fact is that 2 weeks after Rich's death, those emails were published by WikiLeaks. While none of this information has yet been confirmed, it could be a game changer if proven true. And the final article I have in this episode is off of, lawnews.com. Sorry, but Jeff Sessions absolutely did not perjure himself under oath when asked about Russia. Same liberal law professors and journalists who thought Hillary should be president after lying to Congress about hiding emails, and who also praised Clapper's independence after he repeatedly lied to Congress about NSA spying, now attack Attorney General Sessions after a bogus claim of lying to Congress. There is no basis to suggest Sessions committed any crime at all for doing his job as senator on the Armed Services Committee. Sessions, as a senator on the Armed Services Committee, met with over 20 ambassadors in 2016. One of them was the Russian ambassador. There is no evidence at all Sessions met with the ambassador to review Trump's campaign strategy or anything of the sort. The suggestion that our senators should not be meeting with representatives of foreign government is ludicrous, especially coming from people Clinton Foundation meeting with foreign governments frequently to fund their Clinton Foundation and personal enrichment. The criminal law only prohibits lying to Congress under two statutes, 18 U.S.C. 1621 and 18 U.S.C. 1001. Section 1621 requires a person willfully and contrary to a sworn oath subscribe as a material matter which is both false and the person knows to be false. Section 1001 is basically the same without certain tribunal prerequisites. It also requires a government prove a person willfully made a material false statement. This requires three elements. First, a false statement. Second, the false statement be material. And third, the false statement be made knowingly and willfully. A statement is not false if it can be interpreted as an innocent manner. A statement is not material if it is not particularly relevant to the subject of the inquiry. Willfully is a very high standard of proof. It requires the person know they are committing the crime and to do so anyway. None of the three exist as to Sessions. There was strong evidence Hillary Clinton made false statements to Congress about a range of subjects concerning the emails. and evidence she knew they were false. She still was not prosecuted, and professors like Lawrence Tribe recommended her for presidency. There was strong evidence James Clapper lied to Congress about the NSA spying on Americans, and he was not prosecuted, but promoted by President Obama without complaint from many of the same liberal lawyers, professors, and journalists. Yet these same lawyers and journalists now attack Sessions for what is manifestingly not a criminal act, and for which they never demanded any inquiry of either Clinton or Clapper. Their only claim against Sessions is that Sessions, while a senator, talked to the Russian ambassador a whopping 2 times in 2016. That's called doing his job. Senator Franken, during the Attorney General confirmation proceedings, talked about ties to Russia and asked if Senator Sessions had discussed the Trump campaign with Russian government officials. Sessions answered that he had not. Sessions has no ties with Russia, and there is no evidence he discussed the Trump campaign with an official. The attempts to conflate Sessions doing his job as senator, meeting with ambassadors, as meaning he must have talked about campaign tactics or campaign at all, is patently ludicrous. Here's the key exchange. Franken asked about a continuing exchange of information during the campaign between Trump surrogates and intermediaries in the government. Sessions answered, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I've been called a surrogate at times or at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it. Anyone reading the actual exchange can see Sessions was referring to no communications as a surrogate, just as the question's very long preamble specifically referenced the focus of the question to the subject matter. Nothing about Sessions' answer was false, nor could it be construed to be materially false or willfully false or even false at all. Notably, Senator Franken chose not to ask Sessions about his contacts with Russian officials over the years in his duties as senator on the Armed Services Committee. Sessions' first meeting of the Russian ambassador was in public and likely known to Franken and others. Franken could not have interpreted Sessions' answer as anything but an answer to the question about the campaign contacts with Russian government officials, which no evidence supports ever occurring. Indeed, given what Franken knew, one might fairly ask a different question. Why did Franken avoid this specific question? Was it because he's a lousy senator, like he was a mediocre comedian? Maybe. Or maybe it's because Franken knew the answer would undermine Franken's argument. Or maybe it was because Franken was planning on misusing the answer to attack Sessions later. What's next? Senator, have you now, or have you ever been someone who ever talks with Russians? Guilty. Doing your job now considered to be a crime by the same people on the left who accused actual crime by their presidential candidate and presidential appointee. This question needs to be asked of the Sessions smear operators. Do you have no shame? And that's all I've got for you in this article. If you like what I'm doing here, please give it a thumbs up. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Subscribe yet, please do. That way you'll stay informed. See you in the next episode.